must add, because 3-0 is always a good result, especially at an away game that was meant to be tough, and it was tough to be honest. But by the end of it, but the first half was exceptional, and I think this is good. This is good because the international break is here. We talked about this stuff. It's crucial to get this win before we kind of get that break and before we stop. Keeping the momentum is crucial. Keeping the optimism high is crucial, and of course, winning is crucial for Barcelona. So, what are your thoughts? Let's get into it.
Oh man, a win away at Mendirota, always 3-0. You take it and you run in. You're super happy that you got it that way. But that second half was just.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of issues out there in that second half. We'll obviously talk about that, but credit where
Mm-hmm.
it's due. The first half we just blew them away. I think Lewandowski has had a terrific season. I think somebody mentioned also. I think that we are performing better from some set pieces, not free kicks, but set pieces. And I think the first goal was perfect example of that. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think yeah, the first half was amazing. No questions on that. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams came out to play. That made it easy. I had thought Alves would be coming with a block, but they didn't. They came out to play, and they wanted
Yeah.
to play on the counter, and that made it difficult for them. Then they conceded because we did to them what they wanted to do to us, and that's basically what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But there were chances in that first half as well, and the second half was was just like it should have been controlled a
Mm-hmm.
lot better than what it
Mm-hmm.
was with that score line. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let's get stuck in.
Yeah, us. Okay, so let's see where to start. Yeah, the thing that you mentioned there, Barca were kind of far more vertical this game, and I didn't mind it at first because Alaves kind of came out to play. They kind of wanted to put this high line. They wanted to press us a little bit in a mid to high structure, and that's fine. But when you have a Barca team on the other side who is man for man, worlds apart from you,
Better,
you
yeah.
cannot you cannot play that game. And that's why I was fine with Barca verticality because yes, we're playing Alaves's game, but we know we're much better at their game ourselves than they are. So in that sense, I was fine with it. What I wasn't fine with, and I know we're gonna get comments like, "Oh, guys, you're focusing on the negatives again," but we have to a little bit as well. The second half, when you do have this cruise control game where you have 3-0, obviously you slow down. Obviously, your attack is not as potent anymore. Your attack is not as aggressive anymore. That happens to every team. But what Barca need to be able to do in preparation for the Bayern, for a Clasico, for Sevilla, and all those teams, is tempo control, right? We talk about tempo control, Dev, in many of our videos, and it's a key part of how Flick sustains pressure. But you have to know when to slow down and when to be this vertical, because now, when you're not as sharp going forward, when your attack is not yielding as many results as you wanted to, you need to be able to recognize, okay, this is when we actually stop a little bit. We have to calm down the game because as the game was progressing, Alaves were actually getting chances. Alaves were the ones who felt inevitable. I tweeted at one point that Alaves goal is coming because I genuinely felt that
Yeah,
the goal was
every
in the air. Yeah. Yeah, and to be fair to them, they did well, but Barca also didn't do anything to actually stop that. They kind of continue playing into their style of play without having that end product anymore because the game was done, so they were like, it's fine, just hoof the ball forward. We'll play the same way we've played so far, but only now we're playing with much less intent, right? With much less clarity and tension behind their actions. So from that perspective, I agree with you. The second half was something that we should just kind of not ignore, but it's good to forget that, but also learn from it. That's a key.
no,
Just
come on,
learn
man.
from
Like I
it.
think like for 40 minutes you are 3-0 up,
Mhm.
and this is Flick had mostly the team that he wanted, right?
Yeah.
These are the best players for Barca right now at this moment. Yes, there are some others, you know, ill and out and all of that, but this was a good team, right? And you 3-0
Yeah.
up. The fact that you can't control the game, number one, the fact that you can't control Alaves attacking at will, that was the other
Mhm.
problem that I have. Like if Alaves can do that, what will a Bayern do when they are down or when they go for the juggernaut or what have you? And Barca struggled. Barca really struggled. That's the truth. Like if you look at the number of touches, like what 12, 13 offsides
Yeah,
11.
11,
Between
11,
11,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, they came off. So obviously we look smart, but 2 goals scored, correct? One of these days, it's not going to come off. It's just like, it's
Mhm.
just going to happen that way, right? And yeah, the second half just left me a little bit, and I understand people will say that, okay, you're being too negative, and yeah, it's true. There's a valid point there. We should enjoy this win, but yeah, I mean, Flick needs to, like, my thing is, he should be able to control that game
Yeah,
moment,
yeah,
or control Alaves from attacking at will, like where we were like
exactly.
every counter. It was insane. And that first half was, yeah, I mean, like at one time I think there was like 20 people just around that center circle. Everybody's
Yeah,
looking to play on the counter. Everybody's looking for the ball over the top. So it was crazy. It was chaos for 90 minutes straight in. Very entertaining football for neutrals, so I must say that,
mhm.
and much more fun than what we have been used to for the last, a couple of seasons, or a few seasons in the way Barca play. So, no complaints there. No complaints about the win. No complaints about the
Mhm.
3-0. No complaints about the 24 points. No complaints about the fact that we'll head into the international break,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
with this one win, up over Madrid, and then meet them at the Clasico. So all good things, but yeah, that second half somehow left me just, yeah.
mm.
I was very
Yeah,
happy
yeah,
by the end of
yeah.
first half. I was super happy, but I was not that happy at all.
Well,
All right,
I
let's get
mean,
started.
just
Um,
to your point, Dev, just before we head into the questions, I feel like against Villarreal, we had this a similar
same,
situation where Barca were kind of playing into that same
same.
tempo that Villarreal had set, but then at one point something switched, and we were like, okay, we recognize that we have to slow down. We recognize we have to kind of suck out their momentum and play our way. So I'm hoping this was just an Alaves thing where Flick was like, okay, I know we are better than Alaves in this, so we can keep playing that as well. Now, that gives me hope that once we get to Bayern and Real Madrid, who can, both those teams can do what Alaves was trying to do much, much better,
Much
right?
better, much
Much
better.
better. So I'm
And they'll
hoping
time their
that
runs better. I mean,
they do.
guys were,
And,
they were silly at times. Like, they knew the
yeah,
trap
it
was
was.
there, but they're silly
Yeah.
just running across. Like,
And they just have better players, far better, worlds apart, better players. So that's there, that is there for sure. But I feel like based on Villarreal, based on Athletic Club, based on these games, I feel like once Barca do get to face these bigger teams, quote unquote, they will know that they can't fall into the same trap and play their game. I'm hoping at least.
yeah.
Right. Okay. With that out of the way, yeah, let's kick off with the
Let's
questions
kick off.
and
Okay,
see.
let's start with the.
Um,
I think let's start with a question that is close to everybody's heart. I think Ansu Fati and Iñaki Peña. Right. So let's start
okay.
with Peña, and then we go on Ansu Fati. I think for me, I think that entire second half, I was pretty sure like any Peña can concede a goal anytime, anytime.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so shaky in distribution, in positioning, in understanding where he needs to be, in understanding how the Highland reacts, in whether he needs to fist a ball, grab a ball, punch a ball. I think he was just all over the place, and completely out of sync, and that's sad because we would like him to be successful. We all want that to happen, but if he plays this way, I just don't
Oh,
see it.
but we also know this was coming because we had a large
It's
enough
just
sample to see
insane.
this coming.
It
Yeah.
was
I
just
mean,
terrible.
yeah, I know, I
Terrible.
would agree. There's not much to add because to me, the biggest worry is like I tweeted this as well. I feel like he has hands out of glass, right? Made out of glass
Yeah,
because he can't. Ter Stegen, say what you will about Ter Stegen, but when he blocks a shot with one hand, he's solid, right? The ball doesn't go through his hand, no matter how powerful the shot is. Most of the time, if he reacts in time, which sometimes we know that he doesn't, sometimes he just stands there, does nothing. But when he does react, when he gets to the ball won't go through him,
yeah.
right? And now Pena, I every shot that goes at him as well, I feel like every shot can go through him as well. So to me, that is the biggest concern I have
And he had
around
no
Pena.
idea where to position himself. He was all over the place. He was sometimes up, he was sometimes down. Yes, like, like when a corner is coming in, does he grab the ball? Where does he position himself?
Mhm.
It's with a goalkeeper like that, you are never certain. Like, even 3 goals are not enough. You need another three to be on the safe side. And
I know.
then if you consider the goals that we even conceded, which were offsides for sure. Um, uh, And I think if you look into it, his positioning wasn't that great in any one of them. Forgetting all the
Yeah.
fact that okay, these were offsides and they didn't count. But look at the positioning that he had in each one of them wasn't good. So no, Iñaki Peña will be a problem for
Yeah.
us, according to me. I think the faster we get Chesney is better. It's not that Chesney also is amazing, incredible, whatever, but he's much better than this. He's at least
Yeah.
safe. His house is basics, like a basic shot, a basic carry. He can do that. So yeah, I think it's pretty much Chesney after the break. I feel
Hmm.
so. And after
Hmm.
that, I doubt if Iñaki Peña gets other chances except maybe Copa del Rey matches or what have you. I don't know, whatever. Okay,
Hmm.
so Ansu. Okay, we have talked about Ansu quite a lot, written about Ansu in today's episode that we did as well earlier.
Yeah.
But I think last game he got a few minutes. Today he got a lot more minutes with Lamine out, and though that's not his position anymore, he probably should have scored 2 goals. That's the way I would look into it. It's not needed for sure, and we were winning, and those were hard chances. But if Ansu has to have a role in this team, it is to be that player and score those goals. And 2 were pretty simple chances for a player of that elite level. Not for me, I can't score them, but for a player who aspires to be in that position for FC Barcelona, those were goals that should have. And even then, like later in the, like, he wanted to do a dribble and then cut back in the penalty box, couldn't really get anywhere, or just his you know feeling of where he needs to be positioned, or the place that he needs to make. He was there, he was running around, but I didn't like, yeah, just there was this thing about Ansu when he, before pre-injury, there was this sense of inevitability, or that just yeah, for me, I think it'll be hard to get that Ansu, or even 60% of that Ansu back. But Dom, I'll leave it to you.
Uh, I have a much more positive spin on this. See those two chances. I don't think they were easy chances. That's number one. Number two, I think the goalkeeper did really well. I mean, I think to save that, see the two shots that he made, to have so much power and to take that shot so quickly and adjust your body so quickly. I don't think that Ferran or Pau Victor or anything other than maybe Lewandowski or Lamine, no one does better in those situations. I don't think they do. I just don't think they do. So if there is a hopeful template for us to have with Ansu Fati, this is it, right? Get him inside the box, get him in those situations, and he will create his own angles. He will shoot. He will shoot on goal. And on a different day, he has a brace. Today it was a great save and a post, which to me it's more external circumstances slash good goalkeeping than bad Ansu Fati, at least to me in this situation. So I would see this performance as a slight positive. Yes, you're right when you say, okay, dribbles didn't come off. Some of the passing didn't come off. When he was dropping deep, he was laying off the ball and he was not really good at that. And sometimes he was, but then he gave a big chance to Alaves. I think it was him by the end of the game as well.
Yes, it
So
was.
yeah. So there you go. There were some moments where I was like, okay, you can see that he is rusty. You can
That
absolutely see that. Yeah,
that
yeah,
confidence is just not there. He's
yeah.
shaky. You
Hmm.
can make it out. Like he's
Yeah.
just still not there. But yeah,
And
sorry. Keep going.
yeah, yeah, no worries, no worries. Yeah, so I think in those situations, you're absolutely right. You can see this Fati is still miles off of that elite player, but those two chances, in particular, to me, they are the positives. They're the positives because just the way that he can actually take a shot from those positions, strike the ball cleanly, create, just angle his body properly the way he has to, and then of course a post happens, which is unlucky, and then a great save happens, which is also unlucky because a different keeper on a different day, maybe that's probably a goal because he strikes the ball cleanly and it has that nice curve because he slices it in a way, right, with the outside of his foot, and it's a clean strike to me. So I would still see it as a positive, but that's just me. Um,
Yeah.
overall, is it a mountain moving performance? No, I don't think it was. So I would agree on that point. But these two chances, to me, that's a template. If you can use Ansu, this is where you can use it because Ferran doesn't do better in those situations. I don't think he does.
No.
So in that
No,
sense, yeah.
it's not that Ferran is better than Ansu. No way.
No, I'm not saying that you meant that. It's just in the bigger picture. Now
Yeah,
that Ferran is back, not back. Sorry, it's gone for a while probably. Now it kind of is do or die for Fati because now Ferran is out. He should, in theory, be the next one in line or just behind Pau Victor. We don't know. But then again, today when Ferran went out, Flick didn't go for Ansu or for Pau. He went for Eric, right? And at first that was a big surprise for me. But then I kept thinking about it, and Flick saw, at least
distribution was good.
uh, yeah. So this is what that was kind of my theory. You see the Alaves the way they are playing. They have this high line. They are not really compact, which means that your distribution from the deep or your players in the deep areas will get more space on the ball theoretically, right? If you give Eric and Casado space on the ball in the deep, they will find the runners behind the Alaves' line. So I felt like, okay, Flick thought to himself, do I need an Ansu who is not going to make those runs as efficiently as Ferran because of his physical state and whatnot? Probably not. So what I'll do instead is I'll get another distributor on the field instead. And I think that to me, at first it didn't make much sense because I was like, okay, this is the chance for Ansu Fati to play actually, right? But then when you think about it, it does make sense. So it was unfortunate for Ansu in one way because he enters the pitch at 3-0 and the game state is just, it's completely meh because the whole team is not performing at the highest level anymore just because they had their three goals up. So again, it's not the ideal scenario for him, for Fati, but some positives, some negatives. It's kind of a yeah, that's what I would say.
All right, let's answer some stuff. Okay, we'll clarify a few things. So from Ori says, I think bashing Iñaki does nothing for the club but cause instability. The guy got a clean sheet. What else do you want him to do? Score goals with his kick. All right, that's one. And the other one was Ansu played well. I'll give Ansu time back from injury confidence. We'll support him and not with toxicity. Ori, we are not toxic. We are incredible supporters of Ansu. You should go and read all the stuff that we have written about him and how much we support him. But the fact is, he didn't play well today. That's got nothing to do with anything else. He tried, and his injury, yes, he's been injured for a while. He was injured, and we all know that. Last season he tried, he got injured again, played in loan, came back, has been working on his fitness for a while now, right? So, yes, we are all aware of his injury, and we all want him to do well, right? There is nothing toxic that's being said here about whether he can or cannot. We all want him to succeed, right? If he's great, we'll be very happy. So just being clarifying there. There's nothing toxic about that. We want him to succeed, but if he doesn't play well, then he doesn't play well. And there's nothing wrong in saying that. Same thing with Iñaki Peña. He kept the clean sheet. Sure, he did. Absolutely, he did. The offsides were not counted. And do we want him to score a goal? No, we don't want him to score a goal. But we do want him to catch a ball properly, like a goalkeeper should. And he didn't do that many times, correct? And that's okay, right? Again, we're not bashing him. He just didn't do it well enough. I mean, even if I don't say it, 20 other people are going to say it. The media is going to talk about it. And he's a grown-up footballer. He should be able to take that. When they do well, we support them a lot. When they perform well, we comment on their performance. We give them all the regards and the kudos that they deserve. But when you can't do basic things right, and people say that you can't do basic things right, that's okay. That's fine. Yes, and absolutely full credit to him that he did keep a clean sheet for sure. Absolutely. So just want to clarify those two things. All right. Let's take a few more things. Yes, Ansu is getting back to match fitness for 2 years, for sure, 100%. And we can give him more time, and we are giving him more time. That doesn't mean that he did incredibly well in this season, the few chances that he has got. He hasn't. Sure, we can give him more time. That's not in debate. All right. Kounde's touches are very poor, and his ball control isn't good at all since he came to Barca. Another proof of that is when he wants to defend, there's chaos, and the build-up phase is poor. Is it so? Is Kounde's touch very bad? I don't know. He's been pretty good on that defense for us, I would say. Yes, he's probably Flick tells him to attack a lot more, and he's probably not like, I don't know. He's probably not the best at first touch. But is it very bad, Tom?
No, I don't think it is. But I know the biggest difference that we saw today with Fort, for example, versus having a Kounde, and Fort was good to be just to make that statement first because he was decent, he was stable, he was doing his job, he was more of a right center back, a rest defense tool than he was an attacker, which to me was a bit of a surprise, but it worked. It was okay, right? Now the biggest difference is Lamine actually, because look at Lamine's impact in this game. There was some moments of magic here and there, as there normally is with Lamine, but he was constantly double teamed. He was constantly moved out of the game. And luckily, when that happens, Lamine has such a gravity that he attracts opposition players towards him, and that usually makes it more difficult for him to do something, but that he opens space somewhere else. That's why Barca could score goals without Lamine, because Lamine was still pulling players to himself while there was openings in other places. Now, partly that is due to Alaves being Alaves and trying to man mark him out of the game. Okay, yes. But secondly, that is also due to Fort now being there the way Kounde is there for Lamine. Because Kounde is best when he's a tool to dismark Lamine, right? He makes those runs, he drags a defender, he goes wide when he needs to, he goes inside when he needs to, and Lamine gets more space. So I feel like Kounde's presence is best felt in the way he enables Lamine.
Yeah.
To me, that is the best thing that Kounde does. And the synergy with Kounde and Lamine is much, much better than synergy with Lamine and Fort. And obviously,
100%.
they don't. Yeah, obviously that's going to be a thing because they play more together, right? His first touch, I don't think it's bad. I think Kounde is a good player on the ball. He's a stable player on the ball. He's a good distributor from the back as well. We know what he is not. We know what he is not, and we know that he's never going to probably be this flying wing back type, and he doesn't need to be honest. As long as he enables Lamine and does the distribution from the back, from deep areas, I think we're golden. So I wouldn't say that he's poor in any sense. He's been very, very good this season.
He has been amazing.
Yeah, so I don't know. I wouldn't really go into that poor touch thing. I don't think that our build up suffers because of him. I think it's successful because just the way that he functions, his profile functions as a role in this flex system. I think it brings a lot. So I wouldn't go as far as to say that he is kind of disrupting the build up. No, I don't think so.
All right. Lewandowski is away to another Pichichi. Can we stick with him for another year till he's 37 years old? Yeah, big question, to be entirely honest. Did we think that Lewandowski would be having this season? Probably most of us didn't think that. So, yeah, apologies were due and credit to Lewandowski. He's really stood up and delivered. And at this level of fitness, he's doing quite well. I mean, can he continue for another year happily? And I think there's a clause in his contract which says that if he plays 55% of the matches this season, he gets one more year automatically added in. And that's the clause in his contract. So is Lewandowski going to stay next year? I think so. He will. But that said, should we start looking for strikers? I think we should, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, depending on, I don't think that Nike deal is going to be signed this year. I think it will be signed somewhere around April or May next year, before the next summer transfer window. And if that happens, then probably from that money, maybe we're talking about, like, you go to Twitter and you see names like Jonathan David and lots of names come out, and we don't know. But I think statement signing, there are probably two, Rafael Leao and Erling Haaland. None of them are going to be easy. None of them are. But that said, with 125 years, Laporta going back to Camp Nou, election coming up, he will spend money. He'll make a political signing for sure, 100%. And in that, anything can happen, literally. So I do think, yes, we will go for a striker, a brand name, plus a striker who can play. And that will possibly help us, because while Lewandowski is doing amazing, and that's great, and may it continue, depending just on that, probably might not be best in the long term. Medium term, yeah, this season it'll be amazing. So, but Dom, your thoughts?
It's difficult to say, because if you use someone like Lewandowski the way we use him now, theoretically can get another year out of him, because he will just be doing what he knows he's good at, right? and he'll be doing things that theoretically, at least, don't lose with age, right? You shouldn't lose. Well, you do lose it to a certain extent, but not as much as you lose other physical traits and other stuff there, right? So these poaching things and these how he smells the goals, how he moves, that should stay the same, right? Even next year. Now there is always that fear or the risk of players just crossing a certain age and then they're just fall off a cliff, right? So just suddenly disappear, and that can happen. And it's very difficult to predict that because Lewandowski is someone who does take care of his body, someone
He does.
who is so someone who is very he's very strict with himself when it comes to those things, right? He lives healthy, he is works out regularly, he is 36 or he's 36, but he doesn't look like that on the pitch when he's actually asked to do the things that he's meant to be doing. So I feel like if we continue with the same system, kind of with him, the same role rather, yeah, sure, he can be your striker for another year. Now, is that does that mean that he's the starting striker for the whole next season? I don't know. If then again, if you get a big signing like a Haaland or someone, how worth it is to have Lewandowski as your sub? Is he going to accept that? Number one. Number two, what about his wages?
Yep.
They're not going to be low next year either. So you can't have him on the bench either, because having such an expensive player on the bench doesn't make sense, right? So it's a tricky situation, and we'll see how Barca navigate that. But I don't know.
Somebody said, let's take the forward thing. Okay, somebody said about Vitor Roque. Betty's playing now. Lona Kuler. TBH, Vitor Roque is underwhelming so far. His first touch is so bad. Yes, it is. We all know this. And there is a reason why Vitor Roque is not playing in Barca and on loan. There are two coaches. One, Xavi Hernandez himself. And then you have Hansi Flick, who had the opportunity to look at him in training. Very close quarters, and they're professional coaches. They don't have any personal vendetta against any player. They will take any player that plays well. So if both of them did not find the confidence to keep him and loan him out, there must be a reason for that. And we've seen that. Probably his transition was there is a goal scorer in Vitor Roque for sure. But in which team and for what kind of game? Sometimes I think he'll be much more better fitted for the Premier League than here. Sometimes, but even then, he needs a period of adaptation for sure. So, is he the answer for our forwards? Probably no. I'll just add a couple of more thoughts on Jonathan David and then pass to Dom. We're hearing a lot about David for sure, but that happens, like media starts talking or somebody starts talking, then everybody starts talking about the same player. But he's been great for he's been great in League One. Goal scoring prowess is good, but at least 6 clubs are a bit behind him, if I'm not mistaken, based on what we read. So it's not going to be cheap. Now, do you spend more of the little money that you have on Jonathan David, or do you go all in on a bigger established name? That's the question, because Barca will not have more money than that. That's something Deco has to answer. To be I'm glad I'm not Deco, so I don't have to make that decision. But to me, if you have the money, you go for a statement signing. You need a statement signing as a brand, according to me. Not saying Jonathan David is not good. He's good. He's great. He's really good, great, and he can be a great, support act to Lewandowski. I just don't think we'll have that kind of money to make one statement signing and then another Jonathan David. And I think Laporta will go for a statement signing for sure, for election and political reasons. Tom, over to you.
When you say too expensive, do you mean wages? Because I think
the cost.
But he will come as a free agent, though. So that's
yes. But sorry, yes, he will come as a free agent, but the wages per se. You're right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So wages. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. No, I agree. I don't think that we would go for 2 strikers. Now, if we don't buy a Haaland or a marquee striker,
then yes,
yeah, potentially. But then again, I don't think. See, I scouted Jonathan David. I think it was 5 years ago for TFA. That was my first piece of Jonathan David. It was a long time ago, and I don't know how much he's developed now, so I can't really speak. But if he's the same type of player as he was back then, a runner, some more similar to Vitor Roque, and I don't know, maybe even a Ferran than he's a Lewandowski or something like that. So I don't think
a League One Vitor Roque.
Right, yeah. So I don't know. I'm not such a big fan. I just don't see that as a ceiling raising signing, and I hate making these purgatory level signings where you buy squad level players that don't really elevate the team, but don't really visibly downgrade the team either. So you're kind of stuck in the middle. Your team just stagnates, right? So I don't know. I honestly, I would just, if we're gonna splash on a striker, just go for it. Go for someone that will actually improve the team. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, so
For
Torres, Benjamin Sesko, Jonathan David, these are the names that
oh
are all floating
yeah, I
around
know.
consistently, Vlahovic and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
Are any of them ceiling raisers? It's debatable, depending on who you're talking to and who you like or dislike. You can have very strong opinions about
Yeah,
somebody. Um,
yeah.
but uh, but yeah, I think
It's
yeah,
it's tricky. It's tricky. And Sheshko, I mean, I would take Sheshko because like he is very good right now, but he can be elite, world class, very very soon. So he's a project player, kind of, in a sense
yeah.
that you can see it in some of his actions, but he is already at a very high level. So I would take him. Now on Vitor Roque, real quick, this is what we kind of said would happen, and that's why we got attacked so much when we said, okay, he's not a Barca 9. And then I said that he should play as the Ferran Torres type left winger. People were like, no, no, put him in the middle. Well, you can't, not for this part,
He's
not
not
yet,
ready yet. He's not ready
not
yet to
yet.
make those
So,
runs.
it's just he has good fundamentals. Right? His movement is
Yeah.
great. That's always going to be there. His
And
ball
he's
striking
young.
is
He's,
great.
he's
He
ridiculously
is young.
young. Just give him
Yeah.
time. And all these kids, even like
Yeah.
Ansu
Hmm.
Fati, still young. Pedri,
Hmm.
young. All of them are ridiculously young, and they can come good later in their careers. So we never know about that. But for now, they're just not ready yet for the big stage. Okay, some people talked about Pedri, so we should talk about Pedri. He's been amazing. He's been amazing, and by every game, he's becoming more and more amazing a little bit. I'd stopped counting on Pedri the last 2 seasons because of the spate of injuries. Like it rolls
Yeah.
back to that Ronald Koeman season when he played for that full season. We fell in love with Pedri for all the right reasons, and I guess it's his whatever the way Flick is using him or his training schedule or what have you. He's been injury free, which is awesome. Doesn't look tired all the time. Is generally taken off by the 60th, 70th minute and preserved. And he's been amazing. And what I've loved the most about him is his defensive work and his ball recovery. More than I think we all have seen his ability to be in the midfield and to play attacking and so on. But this season, man, he's been so good at recoveries. He's probably Barca's number one or number two in terms of recoveries, in terms of data. And you can just see him. He just gets involved in that press, recovers that ball, starts the attack, threads the ball, connects the game. He's been just incredible. Again, not comparing him with midfield, you know like there's no point in comparing. It's just lovely to watch him play. There's no need to compare him with anybody, Tom.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I don't think there's much to be said about Pedri because we say it almost every week. When Pedri is fit and he actually gets a good run of games, then he shows his quality, right? It's impossible not to see his quality because he just shines, right? And this defensive side is something that we don't really talk often about. Well, on our channel we do, but people in general don't talk about it a lot. So it's a very interesting thing to notice. Especially when you consider that, okay, this Barca team under Flick needs to be aggressive, they need to press, they need to do all this, all that. And we know that Pedri is not really a long distance runner, nor should he be. But it just goes to show you he's not a bad defender. He's a very smart defender, a very capable defender in both technique and just the way he thinks.
Thanks.
But you need to minimize the space that he needs to cover, and that's all you have to do. Because if you box him in a little area where he needs to defend, he will defend that area like, I don't know, Paolo Maldini. It's just an exaggeration, right? But if you have him go up and down the pitch every game in defensive transitions, he can't control that properly. He's going to get injured. He's not going to be able to track back. He's going to be late for, I don't know, runs and overlaps and stuff like that. So there's a proper way to use Pedri and there's the wrong way to use Pedri. And so far, we've been using him right. And that shows in the defensive side as well as the offensive side. So that's all there is.
Okay, some quick question. Why does Flick always play Ferran Torres ahead of Pau Victor and Pablo Torre, which I think, in my opinion, would contribute better to the team than Ferran? Why? I'll take my 2 seconds and then I'll give Dom. But because I think, Dom, you've talked about this earlier also, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pablo is
Yeah.
great, and he can do that link-up play in that middle of that pitch. and Pau Victor had a great preseason, but none of them have the movement that Ferran has. Ferran is not the best in front of goal and in converting goal, but his movement is good. That opens up channels for other players to score goals, and that's probably what Flick wants and likes in him and tries to use in him. Um, uh, it would be good if he had the finishing as well, but we haven't seen the finishing in Ferran for Barca. He does very well for Spain, for very well. So I
Mhm.
think that's the only reason why, and I don't think either Pau Victor or Pablo Torre can create that in specific games. If you're like in Villarreal, Villarreal's case, like if you remember, um, Torre can be that, you know, uh, like Danny Olmo kind of a player who connects that midfield, just in between the lines, passes the ball, creates those pockets of space. Uh, but he's not, uh, his movement is not going to drag defenders out. He's not going to create channels and what have you. He's just a different kind of player. And Same with Pau Victor. Pau Victor probably will be an impact sub always.
Mhm.
He's good. He's hardworking. But again, the movement. So
More or less what we've been saying for weeks now with Ferran. The profile on paper fits. The profile on paper is useful. Now, that's in theory. In practice, it doesn't always come off of Flick. And I can see that he's trying to replicate that, I don't know, Serge Gnabry kind of thing of the left wing, a runner, inverted runner that attacks the box. He, has ball striking, has goals in him. Now, Ferran, the thing with Ferran is he scores certain types of goals. He scores in certain types of situations. And that's similar to Vitor Roque, actually, because Vitor Roque is a good goal scorer, but only in certain situations, right? You have to play to his favorable situations to get the most goals out of him. And Ferran is the same. He thrives with those patterns, with the repeatability, and just having a set routine. That's what Ferran is. So he will score goals for Spain because Spain are better at creating that environment for him specifically. At Barca, he creates the environment. He doesn't get the leisure or the what's the word? He's not that good, so the Barca can actually accommodate him. Instead, they use him to accommodate Lewandowski or accommodate Lamine Yamal. So in that, if that makes sense, right? So they are using him as a tool, a utility tool to create favorable situations for other players, as opposed to actually using the team to create situations for Ferran himself. So that's the way I see it at the moment, and that's why he's not scoring, because he's more of a utility kind of player. And then he gets into these situations because he does have the movement. That's correct. He does have the movement. He can smell where he needs to go. But then if he's not in those patterns and those situations that he loves, he probably won't score as many goals, right? He has good ball striking, but not on the level of Ansu Fati even, or Lewandowski, especially, or Lamine. I think even Pau Victor has better ball striking probably. So I would still put Pau Victor ahead were it not for Ferran's utility off the ball and the way that he replicates that profile that creates stuff for others. I'll pass it on to you, Dev. I'll just go and turn on my light because it's getting dark, and now I'm getting all dark.
no, I know that. No, you're
One
right.
second.
You're absolutely right. So while Dom puts on his lights, I think somebody asked a question around what would be the best team for Barca to field when all the big guns are back, and this is something that we've been discussing ourselves here. So I think without talking about the whole team, I think Araujo comes in, and in the back line you have Kounde, Araujo, Kubarsi, and Balde. Though Balde needs a lot of work, even today. I think it was evident where his gaps are. It was evident today. Today it was very evident where Balde's gaps are. But he's a great player and has a lot of potential. And so those four in the midfield, I think it is a mix. It'll be a mix between Casado, Gavi, Pedri, Casado, or Gavi, Pedri, De Jong. It'll be a mix between those players. And the front three are more or less set. It'll be Lewandowski, Lamine, and Rafinha. I think that's the team. That's the so-called gala with Szczesny in goal. That's basically what we are probably getting, unless we are signing some winger in the winter transfer window, a left winger, to be entirely honest, because we still don't have that. Maybe that. But apart from that, I think that would be mostly the gala team, so as to say. Tom?
Yeah, I think so. There's not much rotation you can do with this team. You have what you have, and obviously we are getting Frankie back slowly but surely. We're getting Ansu back potentially. Of course, yes, Bernal. Yes, that's true. Bernal next season will be hopefully
This
be.
season. We are just talking this season. Next
Oh,
season.
this season, yeah. So this season, there's not much you can do with this team. It is what it is, right? So this is what we're seeing now. You add Olmo to it, obviously, when he comes back because his injury is not meant to be as big, right? So if he comes back, you get Chesney in, obviously, and then that's probably it. In Araujo, yeah, Araujo in there. So yeah, I mean, it all depends on
That Araujo Inigo will be a question because Inigo's been so
yeah,
good. But
yes, he has been.
I still think when Araujo is fit, he gets into the squad.
Hmm. See, today, in particular, that goal that was disallowed for Alaves that came from a cross
Cross.
and then header into the goal. Of course, Pena should be much better at collecting those and then punching those away or just blocking those with his hands. Of course, he does. But we also don't have any height in that back line. We don't have an aerial presence in that back line. And that's a very exploitable flaw, which Araujo kind of does solve. So he does solve for that. He does solve the not solve the high line risk, but he minimizes it somewhat, right? Because yes, someone said, many people mentioned in the chat, the offside traps are good, but they are risky, right? It's always going to be risky. It's just the way it is. Now, they're also a tool that we have just because we don't have Araujo as well, because if you catch your team, the opposition team offside, that means you don't have to be in a foot race with him in a transition, right? Because you stop there. You don't have to run all the way back. If you have Araujo, you can maybe afford to have him in a 1v1 race
Yeah.
with an attacker sometimes. But even that is not optimal. Putting even Araujo in that situation with Vinicius or whoever it is, he can stop Vinicius 9 times out of 10, but one time Vinicius gets through,
And that's it.
that's all you need, right? That's all that Real Madrid need. That's all that anyone needs, right? Generally, right? So it's not worth it. It's always better to stop that at the source to prevent that from happening than dealing with it, right? So that's always going to be the better choice. So in that regard, Araujo is a profile that brings you something that we don't have. Just gives you that element that we don't currently have. It will be a headache for Flick. Maybe it will be a game state type of opponent kind of thing. But we talked about this Dev last time, and we said it's not really good for a coach to dismantle a center back pairing that works,
That's
that's
working. Yeah.
performing really well. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very difficult. It's not advisable.
Yeah.
Every coach will tell you that, from grassroots coaches to high level coaches. If something's working, you do not tinker with it too much.
Yeah.
So that's also something to consider, guys.
Philosophy of life. Don't fix something that is not broken. It's fine.
Yeah,
Just let it run. It's fine. All
so
right. Somebody said Olmo benches Rafinha as almost a step up to Rafinha. Probably yes. Maybe as a footballer, skill wise, probably. But
yeah,
Rafinha's work rate is insane. Olmo will never have that work rate. And somewhere I think Flick really appreciates Rafinha's work rate. The fact that he's running all the time, being everywhere, and putting that hard shift in. I think Flick really appreciates that about Rafinha, and that's why he plays him in every single game. And I don't think
mhm,
that's going away. That said, Olmo is definitely a better, controller of the football than Rafinha
he
is.
is.
So no questions on that. But I don't think Rafinha is going out anytime soon with this Flick team because he really loves the work rate that Rafinha puts in and whatever captaincy material, whatever you want to say, and so on and so forth. So I don't think it'll be a benching. It can be, rotations and so on and so forth when both are fit. Uh, but it'll be hard to bench Rafinha. He
Oh,
is the first choice captain right now for the team, and people
mhm,
love him. And he's been scoring, and he's been assisting, and he's been he's on a rich vein of form. And Flick, more than anything, Flick trusts him. So
yeah,
it's going to be hard from that. Okay, let's just hope Gavi comes back old self, and he will. He's my favorite player. He will be the reason why I still okay. Yeah, we are all happy for Gavi. I will just hope that he comes back. Like he left, because when he left, he was really at like peak level performances in every game. And it can be hard coming back from ACL and getting that kind of a form back. We've seen that with many players. Just now we were talking about Ansu and so on and so forth, right? It can be hard. These injuries can be hard. So the
Mhm.
best thing that we can hope for is that he comes in like nothing ever happened and he picks it up just like Xavi himself did. He went through an ACL, he came back and he became Xavi Hernandez. That's what we would love. And yes, Gavi definitely is the embodiment of that spirit. Like if
Mhm.
Barca needs to have the face of Barca, once when he starts playing, Gavi's that face for sure. So
Mhm.
yeah, we're all very excited um, um, about him coming back. And Dom, where do you see him as? What's his position in Flick's system? Defensive midfielder, controlling the tempo. Okay, I'll let you have it. Yeah.
Gavi is someone. He's not exactly a metronome type of player. He's very comfortable. He can control the tempo. I think Gavi can control the tempo. He likes to carry the ball as well. That's the thing with Gavi. He likes to carry the ball like the young. So that's why he's always gonna struggle with controlling the tempo as such. Unless his temperament on the ball is pitch perfect. But he's very young, so very excitable, very passionate. So for him to have that sort of maturity, a metronome or a defensive midfielder, someone in very deep areas has to have, that would be a tall task even for Gavi at this point. And of course, fitness aside and all this match sharpness aside, because we know that's going to be a problem probably. I mean, on paper, in theory, he shouldn't just come in and beat the same old Gavi that we know. I mean, I shared a video today in the morning with Gavi in training, and he was so hyped up. He just wanted to go. He's like like he has caffeine in his blood, right? He just goes and goes, right? And that's Gavi, and you can't stop Gavi from being Gavi. But that temperament also, it's kind of what he needs to dose a bit if he's going to be a deeper player. Now, if he's a player up high, the number 10 role, we kept saying that on this channel as well. Gavi has the material to be a number 10. He has great attacking instincts, although you don't see them often. You don't always see them like in terms of goals and assists, but his attacking temperament and instincts are very, very good. And he has the pocket play as well to play in the ring, so, that we talked about in the videos as well about sustained pressure. He can be someone who plays on the outside as well, because he can sweep, he can be a counter pressing machine, he can be a pressing machine. So Gavi can do anything most likely that when he comes back. He can be anywhere most likely, but it just depends on the fitness. Of course, it depends on what kind of Gavi we get and how long it takes him to get to that stage again. Maybe he comes in and he's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me because that Gavi is Gavi, and he just wills himself back to fitness. So it wouldn't surprise me, but at the same time, it's unlikely because it's a big injury. He's a young player, sure, but he will have to be stopped a little bit. I think Flick will have to be like, okay, Gavi, don't be so much Gavi in the first 2, 3, 4, 5 games, right? Just dose it down a little bit. How possible is that? I don't know, because he's relentless. He's like a little squirrel just going around. If you've seen that cartoon Over the Hedge or on Another Hedge, I'm not sure. There was this squirrel that kind of just zooms around the pitch all the time, and yeah, that's Gavi. But he shouldn't be that all the times. So I can see him anywhere. And number 10, and number 8 with some freedom to go up and down. That's Gavi as well. And as long as we have a double pivot, it should work. He's not a lone pivot, but he can be a double pivot. So I don't fear for Gavi's place in the team because he can slot anywhere basically.
All right, two questions on two upcoming games. The injury to Carvajal on ACL, does that give us a slight edge over Bayern? That's number one. And then, can we at least win against Bayern? Do we have any confidence or what have you? Okay. Um, let's take the first one with Carvajal. First of all, make Carvajal get well soon. Nobody wishes this on any player. It was a terrible, the one, like after I saw it on television, it was like his leg was like kind of like in a weird angle. It must have been insanely painful for him. And obviously that's the end of the season for somebody like Carvajal. So yeah, like like speedy recovery, all the best to him, and maybe he should come back as soon as possible. That said, Carvajal is such a competitor, right? Born competitor, that yes, him not being on the pitch will always be a problem for Real Madrid or any team in which he plays. He's just that kind of a player, right? So will that be an advantage or beneficial for us? Yes, but we have our own 50,000 injuries on our side as well. So I think it kind of balances it out on both ends. That said, do we stand a better chance against Madrid? For sure, 100%. We stand a chance against Madrid. We just have to control that what happened in the second half today doesn't happen. That's all. If we can just do that, I think we are good enough. I think we can score goals even against this Madrid. But Madrid will not make those mistakes which Alaves made in offense. They're just not going to. And you will not win that many number of offsides against a Madrid. And with players like, Valverde and Camavinga and what have you. And I think those are the ones that I really worry about the most. Vinicius for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not the same gravy, right? And then that can be a challenge. So as long as we try and figure out how we can not do what we did in the second half today, we're good. With Bayern, with Madrid, we'll have an opportunity to score. We'll have an opportunity to win too if we play our game. The Bayern one. Well, if you see the Unai Emery Aston Villa game, right? It was Emi Martinez who, yes, Aston Villa won, but it was basically Emi Martinez, honestly, because otherwise, at least Bayern scored 3 goals, at least, right? So, but they played a good game, and is this the same Bayern team as before? No, it isn't. That said, both of them are minimum with coaches, Nagelsmann versus Flick. So I'm very interested to see this whole Nagelsmann versus Flick thing, and Flick going against his old club. That's going to be so cathartic to just watch, the emotions in play. Lewandowski also playing against his old team and so on. So that's much more drama for me. But Nagelsmann's a good coach. He's a very good coach, very proactive. He's going to have this team absolutely mapped out. He will know where the problems are. He will find out those areas, and he will try to exploit them. So Bayern won't be an easy game by any stretch of imagination, especially away. No questions on that. But I think we can give them a good competition, just like even with Xavi, we gave them a very good competition, I think, the last time. But I would fancy my chances over Madrid more than Bayern at this moment. But Dom.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a sense lucky for us that Madrid are such not a shambles, but they're just not clicking yet. So if we're gonna take advantage of that now is the time to do it.
Now is the time. Not after
absolutely.
this.
Absolutely, now is the time, because they're still trying to find their footing, trying to figure out what's the best formula for them. So we'll see. I mean, the Carvajal injury is it's unfortunate, and I do agree. We wish him just a speedy recovery, of course. We do. It'll be interesting to see how Carlo adjust to that, right? Does he kind of move Tchouaméni deeper into one of the center back positions? Does he put Fede Valverde maybe on the wing back position? What does he do with that, right? So, and depending on that, we can then plan ahead, and we'll see a couple of games they'll play without him, and then we'll actually get a clearer picture of that, and then we can plan accordingly. But yes, I think at the moment I would favor us over Madrid, as long as we don't fall into the trap of actually giving them all these chances and all that. So it's kind of it's that in that sense, I think we have the advantage going into that game. So I would say so. Now with Bayern and the company, I don't know. We have similar strengths and similar weaknesses. They can be exploited in a similar way to us. Now, if we do play into that and try and be very gung-ho and try and outscore Bayern, it's tricky, right? I would not recommend that. We are very good. We are scoring goals, but I would not go into a slapping tennis contest with Bayern. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't, because even Alaves showed us that there is danger with how we play if we don't control properly, right? So there's always going to be that. Now, we will also, guys, do a massive live preview of the Bayern game this coming Saturday. So keep an eye on that. We will announce all of that properly on all social media as well. So I will keep some of the tactical stuff for then for you to find out. But on paper, I think we can beat both teams. We can beat Real Madrid. We can beat Bayern. And I'm confident in our ability to actually score goals against both those teams. But there's always a danger because we do play with a risky approach. We do play with a system that can be exploited well by both of those teams. So that has to be kept in mind, and we have to be able to play our own game and not fall into the trap of Alaves today, like that, for example. So that would be my 2 cents about those two games. But yeah, on paper, I think there's nothing to fear, right? Not fear.
You need
There's
to
things to
fear.
be yeah. There's things to be worried about. There's things that we need to be careful with. But I think we have the squad to compete with both of those teams. That's at
Yeah,
the moment. That's
I
what I
think we
say.
do.
Yeah.
I think we do. And yes, you're right. It is company. So yeah, you're right.
Mm.
But even with that, I think we don't need to fear, but it's not a given as well. We are like can go either ways. Even if it does, I don't think that will be the end of the season in
Mhm.
either Champions League or La Liga, because if like there's enough and more time left, so we should just take these games as what they are. Hope for the win. If it happens, celebrate it. If it doesn't, that's okay. The season continues, and what have you. As long as we are not outplayed completely off the park, I think if it's in the right direction, I think that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Because all these are, like the rest, it's just like conversations between us. Um, for a team that was in a position that Barca is, and for what Flick is trying to do with the team, as long as he continues doing that, I think it's good. That's what that matters. We'll hope for to win for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but apart from that, yeah. And yes, it is. We are at home, and as I said, you're right. And company, both points, you're right. Um, but that said, also, even with that, I wouldn't think that the coach will not define the win as this one. So it can be difficult. And think it will be difficult than what we saw, because it's very open, the game that we play, and we can't. We have seen that it's hard for us to control the games. Once we get into that motion, we keep playing like that consistently, which is good. We score a lot of goals, but with truly elite sides, that can be a challenge. But that's it. We'll see how that
Yeah.
pans out. What else is there?
Right. Let's take one or two more and see. Uh.
Let's talk about Hector Fort. He had a
Mhm.
good shift today,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
he played. Like generally, Hansi Flick hasn't given him that much of an opportunity, but he started today. What did you make of that, Dom?
To be honest, I was expecting him to have a more prominent role. Well, prominent role. I was expecting him to be the second player in the hierarchy when it comes to rotation, right? So after that, our starters would come Hector Ford, right? So a sub for Kounde potentially and stuff like that. So I,
Mhm.
I was I was expecting him to have more of a role, right? Now today he was quite good, although we talked about this in the beginning of the stream. Although his synergy with Lamine was off, right? It wasn't on the Kounde level, nor should it be, because he just doesn't have that connection just yet with him. He doesn't play with him enough to have that connection. But the things that he was tasked to do, I saw him progress the ball quite nicely, because when he would drop deeper and create that back three, he was the right center back. And then Barca would drop Casado as well. Then all of a sudden you had this numerical advantage, and Barca could just recycle the ball, use the third man, access Hector Ford, and then he runs with the ball forward. And he did that well. He did that well. His passing was quite crisp, I think. I haven't looked at the stats yet, but I would say that he did well in most of his passes. We can check that later. And he did well in his dueling as well. So what he was tasked to do on the ball and off the ball was good. The only thing that I was kind of expecting more of is going forward, because he couldn't unlock Lamine, and he couldn't be the more attacking version of Kounde either. So in that regard, Kounde completely outshines him as
Somebody
of
has
this
put in a
moment.
question there.
Yeah,
Shubham, I think he's asking that he was playing as a center back or an inverted fullback. He was not pushing
exactly.
forward. Do you think, Dom, that was something Flick told him to do, or something
Yeah, I
else?
think so. Yeah, that's what I'm saying just now. He was the right center back in the back three, so that's what he would do. He was more of a rest defense type of player than he was someone to push forward. Although I was expecting him to be someone more aggressive, as to compared to Kounde at least, right? And he didn't show that. I think that was an instruction, yes, because naturally his profile is more geared towards the attacking as well. So
Yeah.
more than we did see today. But again, he did well in those things in the first phase, in the dueling, in the passing, and just being positioned there and using the man advantage to progress and carry the ball forward a little bit. I think he did that well. What he didn't do well is all the attacking stuff with unlocking Lamine and then just being more of a wide presence for Lamine when he needed him to be. So I think in that regard, he did well or better in the deeper areas and higher areas, which was potentially by design. But then if it was by design, I'm not sure how Flick imagined Lamine's role, because he must have known that Alaves would try and shut down Lamine, and he didn't do much to help him with the structure. So that's kind of what was concerning to me in a sense. But yeah, other than that, Heretoford was fine. I think it was fine.
With Rafinha excelling so much on the left and a 10 role, don't you think we need a right winger more than a left to back up Lamine? Do we need a right winger? I don't
All
know. I
right.
still think we need a left winger. I don't think Rafinha can play on the left, but I think where he's making the difference is in that hybrid 10 role. He's not really making a difference as a winger for this Barca, for sure. And if he plays as a winger, then he needs to play on the right. That's why he doesn't fit, because in for us, it's in the, like Lamine is in the right. So I still think we need a left winger. But Dom, what do you feel?
Yeah, I think a left winger would be more beneficial. I'm just thinking about this Rafinha left wing versus the right wing. One thing that happens on the left that kind of helps Rafinha is it plays more to his
Strengths.
left, yeah, to his left foot in a sense, because he doesn't have to adjust his body as much. The ball comes to him, and what he does, he just flicks the ball with his left foot into space, right, and then he runs around the players and runs into that space. In that sense, the left, at least what the left does, it kind of makes sure that Rafinha is not a one versus one winger.
Mhm.
He's not someone who has to rely on dribbling as much. He's someone who's dribbling is much more simplified on the left. So that's one advantage of having Rafinha on the left side. Now, do we need a left winger? I think so, because as I said, Rafinha, when he even though he plays on the left, he's more of a 10 because he drifts inside, he's in those central areas, and that leaves Balde in charge of the whole flank. And Balde cannot handle that at this moment. He cannot handle all that responsibility. And I would even say that Balde currently struggles in the things that he's not meant to be struggling to. So he's not having a good run of games at all. That needs to be said. We know what his strengths are, but even when he needs to be the rest defense too, when he needs to be that dueler, that the guy who tracks back, the guy who progresses the ball through his runs, he's not making the optimal decisions. He's not really timing his stuff well. He's relying on his legs more than his head, whereas he has to be thinking a bit more. I think he has to use his head and just be be smarter about his actions. That's what I would say. And a proper left winger kind of takes away
But
at least
where
one
is his
part.
main problem, Dom? Like, because this has been a question that has come before as well. Like, if we go a little bit into depth, like, where do you see Balde's main area of improvement is? He's obviously prodigiously talented, lots of good things about him.
Uh, the thing is, Balde overdoes things. He overcomplicates things, and as I said, he's not using his head as much because he's not thinking ahead. Right? He gets the ball and he tries something, and then he doesn't really know where he's going with that. Right? Even if the action that he had in mind succeeds, he doesn't. It wouldn't create the advantage that we need. Right? So he's not really great at making the right decision and knowing what comes next or what should come next. Or when he gets the ball out wide, he doesn't really know, okay, what is the best course of action for me just now in this scenario right now. And then off the ball, I've seen him struggle as well because he just doesn't time his challenges well. So he's one versus one, and he gets done by the attackers because he doesn't not he rushes in. He's banking on his physicality to be able to rectify his mistakes, and again, not thinking enough. So in that sense, that's what I would say at this minute is Balde's struggle. He's mentally not in the game. I don't think he is. Well, so he will this break that he's getting because he's not getting called up. I think is good for him. I think it's good for him. Just
And I
you
think
know,
that's why he's not getting called up, because he's
yeah,
not playing that well. As simple as
yeah,
that. So
yeah. True,
yeah,
true.
no, and no, we don't have an agenda against Balde or anything. We genuinely do like him. Okay, we've been going on for a while. So as Dom said, we will be doing a preview for the Bayern game and the Madrid game as well, with some of the fans from their side and some
Yeah.
of their like so-called big accounts and what have you. But we would like to also invite some of you to join on camera, so that it's not just us talking, because I always say we're not like any experts. You guys are not any less experts than what we are, right? With your points of view and the thoughts that you have on your game. So we're good to have some of you. We'll be putting that invite out, and then choosing a few people from there at random. No, nothing like, okay, like we just pick up random people, and then they can come and just discuss with us. It'll be next week. I think we're going to go and do that, and probably for an hour and a half, and we'll go all in, like talk about formations from us and from company. Yes, I'm sorry, it was my mistake. And and we will talk about some stats in the past, and we'll talk about where
Mhm.
our what the predictions can be like. So it would be good if you guys can join. We'll send out that invitation. More than anything, it'd be good to have your questions and thoughts that we can answer. Right. So if you have questions on, what you want to know from the Bayern game, Dom or me will be putting a tweet out or something. So please do respond to that, because we would like to prepare those answers and come and share that with them. So that'll be good. So yeah, that's our plug about the Bayern game, and there'll be something similar for the Clasico
Mhm.
that will bring to you. Okay, let's take the last two questions and then possibly wrap up for the game. Some people say we are overtly very very negative all the time. We are just criticizing the team. So let's take this moment to see be a little bit positive and say no, great game. Great game. If somebody had told me that take 3-0 against Alaves, I would have taken that and run with it and not questioned a single thing. The fact that we won with that margin, all kudos to the team and everybody who played in that. Everyone, and even Ansu Fati and Iñaki Peña, people whom we have criticized a little bit in this episode. Um, it was great. It was great, and it feels great that after 8 games we are at 24, 24 points. I think we're at 24 points right now, but not 8 games or 9 games, probably, whatever. And the fact that we are going into the international break, and after the break we'll have that 1 3-point margin over Madrid when we face them in the Clasico. It'll be a very interesting week with Sevilla, Madrid, and Bayern. So kind of will give a lot of questions and answers for Flick's coaching and his stint at the club till now. So that'll be interesting. But Dom, how do you want to end this?
Uh, yeah, I mean, sometimes we are negative because we do like to
Yes, we are.
look at the things objectively, right? So we always go with the positives, but then we always back that up with negatives as well. Because if there are things that are not good, we have to highlight them because we are very biased. Obviously, we are Barca fans. We want Barca to win every single game by 3-4-0. But at the same time, if we are also analytical as well. We do like to look into these things that need to be improved, that can be improved, things that maybe are not perfect just yet, because this team is far from perfect, right? This team is still young. This team is a project. All that is true. But I do feel like we are generally more optimistic than pessimistic. That's just my take. I think we are, at least. I mean, maybe from your perspective, guys, you can tell us more because you see us from the outside and you see us every week, which we are eternally grateful for. But I think we are, decently optimistic in general. It's just that it's not good to ignore the negatives either. So that's what I would say. But yes, the really really tough period is coming just now, and this stretch of games will be horrible. But if we can win those games, even some of those games, there'll be no one happier than us, right? So, and we do think genuinely that we can win all those games. That's the thing. I said this like 2 minutes ago. I think we can beat Bayern. I think we can beat Real Madrid. We can beat Sevilla, absolutely. So I think.
What do you guys think? Can we beat Bayern? Like, you can just text. Nobody's on the camera, so you can text. Some of you can text at least on the chat window. Do you guys think we can beat Bayern and Madrid? What do
Yeah,
people
that would
think?
be. Yeah, we
We're
can
always
put up.
talking. We're asking why don't we ask you and you tell us?
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
Some of you at least, whoever
Yeah,
feels like
well,
going.
we can put out a poll on Twitter as well and see how you guys feel about that. I personally, I think yes, we can beat Bayern and we can beat Real Madrid, especially in their current state. We have to take advantage of that. So, but yeah, guys, next week we will have the big Bayern preview, and we'll have a guest of honor as well. You'll see who it is in due time when we do promote that on. So keep an eye on our Twitter, on our blog as well, on our YouTube channel. Please do follow all of those things. Subscribe if you can. We do have free subscriptions, but we do have paid subscriptions, and what you get differs, but it's worth it, guys. We do put a lot of effort into creating our content, into making all this happen, and recording all of this with you guys. But thank you once again for joining in a big number and staying with us and commenting. We do have like 150 comments or something like that, so that's wonderful. We do appreciate that very much. The links for the Twitter and for the YouTube and for the blog are somewhere in the comments, so you can scroll up and down and maybe find it in there. But yeah, I think this is a good place to end. It's been an hour and 10 minutes. I'm starving. I need to get some food in me, and we'll see you guys very, very soon. I think the next thing we're publishing is a piece this week on Frankie de Jong. So stay tuned for that, and then we will see you guys for another video this week, and of course the live stream, which is coming to you next Saturday. Yeah, Dev, anything to add before we sign
No,
off?
just leave our questions, guys, and what you want, and hopefully we'll be able to answer those things. And hold us accountable if we get too negative or too positive, or come across as too, against one player or the other. Absolutely tell us, because that's just not fair. That's not right. That's not what we are trying to do. We are deeply aware that neither Dom or me can play, even 10% of what these players do.
Yeah.
So it's easy for us to sit here and make comments, and very hard to do what they do. So if you're doing that, please hold us accountable and tell us, and we'll rectify. If you're going over, so it's easy. But thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it. Forgive all the mistakes. Sometimes when you do, work will happen, mistakes will happen. There are good things also that are happening. We are very happy. Again, 3-0 Alaves. I didn't think so, especially after last season. So very happy that we are taking that win. Super glad, and literally so much joy Hansi Flick has given us after what we've gone through the last 2 seasons. So happy with that, and so on. At that positive note, Visca Barca. Take care, guys, and